At 70 years old, I never imagined I would spend my birthday sleeping on the floor of a filthy, abandoned garage that smelled of car dust and motor oil. My son's cruel words wouldn't leave my mind. What would you even do with a real inheritance? Dad knew it would be of no use to you. That night, with tears in my eyes and my hand trembling, I turned a rusty key in the lock, not knowing that door hid my husband's greatest secret. But before we continue, check if you're already subscribed to the channel, and write in the comments where you're watching this video from. We love to know how far our stories travel. I never thought that at 70 I would be sleeping in an abandoned garage, surrounded by the smell of oil and decades of grime. But there I was, trembling in the dark with a mysterious key in my hand, my vision blurred by tears, while my son's harsh words kept circling in my mind. "You're just a useless old woman, Mom. What would you do with such a big, real inheritance?" It all started 3 weeks after the funeral of my husband Bob of 40 years. In Lawyer Carter's office, I was wearing the same black dress from the funeral. My son Jason looked impeccable in his perfectly tailored suit. The lawyer looked a bit nervous as he prepared to read the will. To my son Jason, I leave our apartment in Mexico City, and my main investment portfolio. A chill ran down my back, and then, almost as an aside, to my beloved wife Grace Garcia, I leave the property located at Sinai-Cadezi 1450, the garage and its contents. A garage. After 40 years of marriage, Robert was leaving me a garage. I was so angry my blood froze I couldn't say a word. I was too stunned even to ask why. I felt Jason's hand on my shoulder. He was gripping too tightly. He leaned in and whispered, "Don't worry, Mom. I'll make sure you're okay." I had no idea what those words truly meant. That same night, when I returned to the City View penthouse that I still considered my home, which Robert and I had shared for 14 years, Javier put my suitcase by the entrance. "I think it would be better if you found somewhere else to stay, Mom. The penthouse is mine now. It's in the will." His tone was that business tone he had perfected over the years. Cold, calculating. "Tomorrow some colleagues are coming to discuss how we're going to renovate Dad's office. I need to start making changes. But where will I go?" My voice came out tiny, almost a whisper. Jason shrugged, indifferent and cruel. "You can stay with Aunt for a while. Or you've always got that garage Dad left you." His laugh cut like a knife. "Why did he leave you that junk? It's a mystery to me. What are you going to do with it? Open a repair shop at your age?" I felt something break inside me. I tried to tell him I needed time, that I couldn't just leave that night. That was when he said the words that would scar my soul. "You're just a useless old woman, Mom. What would you do with a real inheritance? Dad knew it would be useless to you." I hadn't expected this much. Such cruelty from the son I thought I had raised. I was speechless. I grabbed my suitcase, my bag, and the key Mr. Carter had given me after the reading, and I left. I drove aimlessly around the city. My tears blurred my sight. How did we get here? How did I not realize what my son had become? The question spun in my head as I finally reached an unfamiliar street in an industrial area, and looked at a neglected garage with a padlock on the door. With my trembling hand, I slid the key into the rusty lock. The door creaked as it opened. The beam of my flashlight cut through decades of darkness, and I froze. Inside wasn't full of junk or old tools like I expected. In front of me were 3 vehicles, carefully covered with sheets. But what stopped my heart was what I managed to see. Beneath one of the sheets, the unmistakable silver grille of what looked like a classic Aston Martin. With trembling fingers, I pulled the cover off the first car. A pristine blue 1964 DB5 emerged, the same one Sean Connery drove in the James Bond films Robert loved so much. It shone as if it had just rolled out of the factory, not as if it had been forgotten in this dark garage for years. "Robert," I whispered into the silence. "What were you doing?" In 40 years of marriage, my husband had never mentioned collecting cars. There hadn't been a single hint of this passion, this investment, this secret life. The second vehicle was a 1956 Mercedes-Benz 300 SL Gullwing. Its gullwing doors and elegant lines were recognizable even to my untrained eyes. And the third was a 1967 Ferrari 275 GTB4. Its vivid red reminded me of the wine Robert ordered on our anniversaries. By each car there was a leather folder filled with documents, titles, and maintenance records. I wasn't an expert, but I knew these weren't just pretty cars. They were museum-level treasures, worth more than I could even imagine. Then I saw an envelope stuck to the wall with my name on it, in Robert's distinctive handwriting. Next to it there was a light switch. When I turned it on, I realized this wasn't an ordinary garage. The space was professionally climate-controlled, with a special floor and security systems. It wasn't an abandoned building. It was a carefully planned automotive sanctuary. I sat down in a leather armchair by the wall, a heavy file in my hands. My heart pounding, I opened it and began to read. My dearest Grace, if you're reading this, I am no longer alive, and you've discovered what I came to consider my final gift to you. Robert's first words made my hands shake. I took a deep breath and continued. First, I have to say I'm sorry for the shock and confusion you must be feeling. This secret wasn't meant to hurt you. It was to protect what I was building for your future. A tear rolled down my cheek. Robert always protected me, but I never imagined it would go this far. 6 years ago, when I received my diagnosis, the doctors gave me a maximum of 5 years. I beat them by a year, but I knew our time together was limited, and I needed to make sure you would be okay after I was gone. I stopped reading, trying not to cry. The diagnosis of progressive heart failure had been terrible, but Robert always downplayed it, saying we had plenty of time. Apparently, he'd been planning his farewell from the start. I know you're wondering about the will. Why I left the house to Jason and not to you. Believe me, that decision cost me more sleepless nights than my health. My hands shook so much I had to set the letter on the floor for a moment. In the last decade, I saw our son change. The ambitious boy we raised became something else, harder and more calculating than I would have wanted. I was afraid of what would happen to you if I left everything to both of you, or even if I split things evenly. Jason would have found a way to control the assets for your own good, as he would say. A tear fell onto the paper, smudging the ink. I saw how he speaks to you when he thinks I'm not listening, how he ignores your opinions and needs. I hadn't realized Robert had noticed those things. I had always excused Jason's condescension, telling myself he was just busy, stressed with work. So I divided the inheritance this way on purpose. Jason received what he will see as the valuable part: the penthouse, the visible investments, the status symbols. But what you're seeing now, my love, is the real wealth. Just these 3 cars are worth about $15 million. $15 million. I looked at the 3 silent machines, their gleaming surfaces reflecting the lights on the ceiling. This couldn't be real. The documents will confirm their originality, and you will find the contact information for Charles Del Bosque, my trusted dealer and advisor for these purchases. He can help you with whatever you decide to do. Each sentence revealed a bit more of how meticulously Robert had planned. But the cars are just the beginning. In the safe behind the photo we took together in San Miguel de Allende, the code is our anniversary. You'll find the documents for various investment properties I've purchased in the last 6 years. All of them were placed so that they transfer to your name after my death. You will also find information on bank accounts that will allow you to live comfortably for the rest of your life. I staggered toward the framed photo on the wall. On our 35th wedding anniversary trip, on Dr. Street, laughing while a street musician serenaded us. When I entered our anniversary date, the safe opened with a soft click. Inside, I found a thick folder and several labeled USB drives. The main document was titled, Complete Asset Inventory for Grace Garcia. I opened it and had to sit back down immediately as columns of numbers and property descriptions swam before my eyes. Apartment buildings in Guadalajara, a commercial property in Monterrey, a small vineyard in the Baja California region, stock portfolios, bonds, investments. The total value at the bottom of the page took my breath away. With trembling hands, I returned to the letter. I know this is overwhelming, and I'm sorry I kept it secret. At first, it was just a project to keep my anxiety about the future at bay. But as the portfolio grew, I realized revealing it too early could put you in danger if Jason learned the extent of these assets. Robert knew. He had anticipated exactly what would happen. He had foreseen how Jason would react. I've always believed character is shown most clearly at moments of inheritance. Jason is receiving a test as much as an inheritance. And you, my love, are receiving the means to live the rest of your life exactly as you choose, owing nothing to anyone. All my love, now and forever, Robert. I hugged the letter. Tears flowed uncontrollably. After 40 years of marriage, I thought I knew everything about my husband. Instead, it seemed I was only now discovering the depth of his love and foresight. I couldn't ignore the irony. Just a few hours earlier, my son had thrown me out of what I believed was my home, calling me a useless old woman, convinced he had received the valuable inheritance. How wrong he was about everything. I spent that first night on a leather couch I found in a small office next door. In the morning, I realized how well Robert had planned everything. The office had a small bathroom with a shower, a mini fridge with water and basic food, and even a little closet with several outfits in my size, tags still on. Daylight showed that the garage wasn't a neglected place, but a carefully renovated facility. The shabby exterior was an intentional decoy, hiding the treasures within. After a simple breakfast, I called Charles Del Bosque at the number Robert had put in his letter. He answered on the second ring. "Mrs. Grace, I was expecting your call. First, please accept my condolences for your loss." Robert was not only a client but a friend. 2 hours later, a stylish gentleman in his late 60s arrived. He looked exactly as calm as his voice sounded. Gray-haired, impeccably dressed in a tweed jacket with leather elbow patches. "Your husband began buying these vehicles about 6 years ago," he explained. He was very methodical. Each purchase was thoroughly researched for authenticity, provenance, and investment potential. "But why cars?" I asked, still trying to connect this passion with the man I thought I knew completely. Charles smiled kindly. He once told me, "Cars are assets you can touch. They're beautiful, and just looking at them brings joy. Unlike stocks or bonds, they can be enjoyed in many ways, like art, like marvels of engineering, like historical objects, and as investments." He wanted to leave you something you could see and touch, not just numbers on paper. Hearing this thought of Robert's put a lump in my throat. It was so him, practical and deeply considerate. "The collection is currently worth about $15 million, Charles continued. But its value has been steadily rising. These models in particular are considered among the best investments in the collector car world. And what should I do with them?" "Whatever you wish, Mrs. Grace. You can sell them separately or as a collection. You can hold them as investments or even drive them, though that would affect their value a bit. There's no rush to decide." Robert paid for secure storage and maintenance for the next 5 years. I spent the following days reviewing the papers Robert had left, gradually grasping the scale of his secret financial maneuvers. In addition to the cars, he had built an impressive network of income-generating properties and investments, arranged to transfer smoothly to me after his death. One document especially caught my attention: the deeds to a modest but very beautiful house in Playa del Carmen, a beach city we had visited several times over the years and always loved. According to the papers, Robert had bought it 3 years ago, fully furnished and move-in ready. I had a home, a real home, not just this garage that was valuable because of what was inside. As night fell, Jason's name appeared on my phone. I hesitated but answered. "Mom, where are you?" His voice carried annoyance more than concern. "Aunt Helen says you haven't contacted her." "I'm fine, Jason," I replied, keeping my voice calm. "I found a place to stay." "Good. Then you need to come get the rest of your things from the penthouse. The decorators start tomorrow. Everything needs to be out." No apology, no word about his cruelty, just more demands and disrespect. "I understand," I said. A strange silence filled me. "When would be convenient?" "Tomorrow morning. Before 9. I have meetings all day." I thought about the documents laid out in front of me, the proof of Robert's care and deep love, and about a son who could throw his mother out of her home without a second thought. And I made a decision. "I'll be there," I said. The next day I arrived at the penthouse at exactly 8:45. I had taken care with my appearance. I wore a new navy pantsuit from the closet in the garage. It fit me very well. Jason opened the door while on the phone. He barely glanced at me as I entered. The place already felt different. Emptier, colder. Many of my decor pieces and the family photos in the hallway had been removed. "Finally," he said. "I packed most of your personal things. The decorators will be here at 9:30, so we need to be quick." Not a good morning. Not a single question about where I had spent the night after he kicked me out of my home. Only the rush of his own plans. "Good morning to you too, Jason," I said, my voice steadier than I'd expected. I see you've started decorating. He shrugged and led me to the master bedroom where several boxes were stacked. No point waiting. The place needs a complete renovation to increase its value. To increase its value, I repeated. So you're planning to sell at some point. It's too big for one person and the market's good. I think I'll renovate it, enjoy it for a year or so, and then sell for a nice profit. His casual disdain for the home Robert and I had built together hurt, but I only nodded. I see. And Robert's things. Jason gestured vaguely at more boxes in the corner. I kept his Rolex and cufflink collection. The rest is just clothes and old stuff. Take whatever you want. I'll donate the rest. Old stuff, I repeated quietly, moving toward the boxes. Inside the first one I found the books Robert cherished, his collection of antique fountain pens, the sweater I'd given him last Christmas that still smelled like him. Each item was a part of the man I had loved, now deemed worthless by our son. I began sorting carefully, while Jason paced impatiently, checking his watch every few minutes. Can't you hurry up? It's just stuff, Mom. You don't even have a place to put all this. I looked at the man my son had become, handsome like his father, but without Robert's warmth or compassion in his eyes. I do have a place, I said calmly, and I'll take as much time as I need. These aren't just things, Jason. They're memories. He rolled his eyes. Fine, I have calls to make. Just be done by 9:30. He left without looking back. As I continued choosing things carefully, I realized I was going through stages of grief, not just for Robert, but for the son I thought I had raised. Had he always been this cold, this rude? Maybe I had refused to see it, making excuses for his growing insensitivity. Robert had seen clearly, so clearly that he made an elaborate plan to protect me from our own son. At the back of a closet I found something unexpected. Robert's old leather backpack shoved in a corner. Inside was a sealed envelope with my name and a note. If you find this, Susanna, it's an extra copy of everything in the garage safe, just in case. My husband, smart and cautious. Backups for his backups. As the doorman helped me carry my things to the car, I looked at the building one last time. A strange mix of sadness and freedom washed over me. The penthouse had been our home filled with memories, but it had never truly been mine in the way Robert had planned for the garage and its contents to be. I drove out of the city toward the coastal road leading to Playa del Carmen. It was time to see the home Robert had prepared for me. The true inheritance he'd been planning all along. As I drove, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. For the first time since Robert's death, I wasn't just reacting to loss and shock. I was intentionally moving toward something new. The trip to Playa del Carmen soothed something in my soul that had been broken since Robert died. As the road wound along the cliffs, offering views of the vast blue Caribbean, I felt I was breathing deeper than I had in weeks. I followed the directions to a stone house, half hidden behind tall cypresses. The property wasn't huge or ostentatious, but it felt cozy and private. A wooden door led to a path that circled a small, well-tended garden. With the key from the document packet, I opened the door and stepped inside. The interior stopped me in my tracks. Every detail seemed chosen with me in mind. Built-in shelves around a stone fireplace in the living room with comfortable chairs in colors and styles I've always liked. Natural light pouring through large windows, illuminating wooden floors covered with handmade rugs. The kitchen was modern yet classic, with a breakfast nook overlooking the garden. The primary bedroom was welcoming rather than large, and it opened onto a private patio with a sliver of sea view between neighboring properties. But it was the small office next to the living room that finally broke me. There, above a simple desk, hung a watercolor I recognized instantly. The Venice Canal where Robert had proposed, painted by a street artist decades ago. We had lost the original in a move years ago, but here was a perfect copy, as if Robert had commissioned it straight from my memory. The tears came then. Not the desperate sobs of the past weeks, but a gentler release. Robert had created this place for me with such care, such attention to what would bring me comfort and joy. Soft knocks at the door brought me back. When I opened it, I found a well-dressed woman in her 70s holding a covered dish. "Hello," she said warmly. "You must be Grace. I'm your neighbor, Marion Delaney. Robert asked me to keep an eye out when you arrived." I blinked in surprise. "You knew Robert?" She nodded, offering the dish. He came several times in recent years preparing the house. I'm one of the few people who knew about his plan. He made me promise not to contact you until you came to claim the place. Over tea in the kitchen, Marion shared details that filled more gaps in my head. He was very careful to do everything right, she explained. He brought photos of your home in the city, trying to capture your style while creating something that fit here in Playa del Carmen. I had no idea he was doing any of this, I admitted. He kept it completely secret. Marion nodded thoughtfully. He mentioned that. He said it was for your protection, though he didn't give me details. She looked at me with direct kindness. He said that when you finally came, you might need a friend. Someone who understood what it was to rebuild a life after a loss. In the days that followed, I settled into a quiet routine, getting to know the city and my neighbors, returning each night to the house that felt more mine with every passing day. On the fourth day, Jason's number appeared on my phone. I hesitated before answering. Mom, where are you? His voice had that same note of impatience. Aunt Helen says you're not staying with her. I'm taking some time for myself, Jason, I replied. I found a place to stay. What does that mean? Where? You can't just disappear like this. I'm not going to talk about where I am for now. Was there something specific you needed? A pause. Then his voice shifted into his business tone. I've been going through Dad's papers more thoroughly and found some references to additional investments that weren't in the will. I think there may be accounts or properties we don't yet know about. My heart beat faster, but I kept my voice steady. What kind of references? Nothing specific. Notes about meetings with financial advisors I don't recognize. Some vague comments about securing future assets. Jason was suspicious, searching for assets he believed were rightfully his. How long before he discovered the truth? If there were additional assets, I'm sure Mr. Carter would have mentioned them, I said. Maybe, Jason replied, unconvinced. Look, when are you coming back to the city? Should we talk about this in person? I'm not sure when I'll return, I said. I need this time away. His frustration was palpable even over the phone. Mom, this is ridiculous. You can't just go and not tell anyone where you are. I'm perfectly fine, Jason. I'm not wandering around and I'm not alone. I'm simply taking time to process everything that happened. After hanging up, I sat in the garden to think. The question Robert had asked in his letter circled in my mind. Would Jason prove worthy of sharing this unexpected wealth? So far, his actions only confirmed Robert's concerns about his character. But people can change, right? The son I remembered from years ago, the one with genuine kindness and warmth, had to still be in there somewhere. 3 months later, I had settled into a rhythm that felt more natural every day. I divided my time between fixing up the house, exploring my new community, and handling the responsibilities that came with Robert's unexpected inheritance. With the help of attorney Elms Del Olmo, I had established a comfortable system for overseeing the properties and investments. The cars remained in their secure garage, cared for by Charles Del Bosque's team. I even drove the Aston Martin once, a slightly nervous drive along the coastal road that made me happy and strangely feel closer to Robert. My relationship with Jason was tense. We spoke mostly through formal emails about practical matters. As Patricia Elms had predicted, his initial legal forays to contest the inheritance fizzled once lawyers confirmed the solidity of Robert's arrangements. I was pruning roses in the garden when an unfamiliar car pulled up. A tall, professional-looking woman stepped out with the efficiency of someone used to handling problems. Mrs. Grace, I'm Claire Monroe, Jason's assistant. May I speak with you for a moment? Something in her manner, tense and urgent beneath the professional veneer, sent a chill of concern through me. In the living room, Claire sat on the edge of the couch, declining my offer of tea. Mrs. Grace, I'm here because Jason has some serious problems. He asked me to speak to you directly, since he thought you might not pick up his call. What kind of problems? I asked, though something in me already knew. Financial, mainly. The penthouse renovation costs have nearly doubled the budget. There were unforeseen structural issues requiring a significant additional investment. I wasn't surprised. Years ago, Robert had mentioned the building's aging infrastructure. His suggestions for maintenance had been dismissed as unnecessary expenses. At the same time, Claire continued, Jason's main investment failed. He put a lot of money into a construction project that ran into permitting problems. The details are complicated, but essentially he's facing serious losses and has little cash. I see, I said evenly. And how does this affect me? Claire shifted uncomfortably. To be frank, Jason needs financial help. He knows you have the resources that could help him avoid bankruptcy and losing the penthouse. There it was, the request I had expected since our blow-up months ago. No apology, no attempt to make amends. A request for money delivered by an intermediary to avoid the embarrassment of asking directly. Has he considered selling the penthouse? I asked. Even half renovated, it could cover his debts. He explored that option, Claire admitted. Unfortunately, in its current state, halfway through a renovation, the property would sell at a significant loss. There are also complications with some of the contractors. In other words, Jason had likely clashed with the construction team because of his attitude or failure to pay. Thank you for coming to explain the situation, I said after a moment. Please tell Jason I heard his request and will consider it. Claire looked surprised at my non-committal response. The situation is quite urgent. The foreclosure process could begin in a few weeks. I understand, and I'll need time to consider my response. That's all I can offer today. The next morning, instead of calling Jason right away, I drove to the city to see the penthouse for myself. The doorman, who had known me for years, let me up without calling first. What I found was serious. The once elegant home had been demolished in most areas, with exposed wires and pipes creating a dangerous construction zone. Equipment lay abandoned, and a thin layer of dust suggested no work had been done for weeks. As I walked through what had been our home, I felt a mix of emotions. Sadness for the destruction of spaces filled with memories, frustration at the waste and poor management, and gratitude for Robert's foresight in protecting me. I was checking water damage when I heard the front door open. "Mom!" Jason's voice echoed in the empty space. "The doorman said you were here." He appeared in the doorway, and I was surprised at how different he looked. His appearance, always impeccable, was unkempt. His clothes were still expensive but wrinkled, his face showing the stress of sleepless nights. He had lost weight, the angles of his face highlighting how much he resembled Robert in his hardest moments. "I wanted to see it for myself," I explained, gesturing at the destruction around us. Jason ran a hand through his hair, a childhood gesture of frustration I recognized. "I suppose Claire spoke to you yesterday." I nodded. "She explained your financial situation, and I needed to understand the full picture before making a decision." I stepped carefully over a pile of debris. "This is very different from what you described when you started the renovations." He let out a short, humorless laugh. "Yeah, things rarely go as planned in construction, or in life. What happened to the investment project?" Something in my tone must have broken his guard. He sat on a flipped-over trash bin, looking exhausted. "I got in over my head. The luxury apartment opportunity seemed sure. Pre-sales were going well. I put in not only the money I had, but I borrowed against other properties, including the future value I thought the penthouse would have. Then an environmental inspection found contamination issues that hadn't been disclosed. The cleanup costs made the project unviable. The investors pulled out. I looked around us at the destruction, both the physical demolition and the collapse of Jason's financial stability. Why didn't you come to me earlier? Before things got to this point. His face hardened. After our last conversation, after I found out what Dad did and your part in it, I guess pride or stubbornness. Grace family traits, I said. Both are powerful motivators. Jason, as if it were nothing, asked, So have you decided whether you'll help me? I looked him in the eye. I'm willing to help, Jason, but not unconditionally. I'm not just going to write you a check to pay off your debts. Relief and fatigue battled on his face. What are the conditions? First, total transparency, I said. I need to see everything, every account, debt, contract, commitment. Nothing hidden or conveniently left out. He nodded stiffly. Okay. What else? Professional financial management from now on. Your judgment in these matters is compromised by impulsiveness and overconfidence. Any money I give you will be managed through funds with proper oversight. His face darkened. So I'm going to have an allowance like a child. Like someone who's made serious financial mistakes and needs protection while they recover? It's not a punishment, Jason, I corrected. It's to protect the money, and you. And are you going to control those funds? No, I said, surprising him. Independent administrators with legal accountability. I'm not interested in controlling your life. I only want to ensure that the help I give actually helps you long term. He took that in, clearly torn between his desperate need for help and his resistance to losing autonomy. The penthouse is still mine. The most practical solution is to sell, I said, watching his reaction. Even as it is, it would cover a significant portion of your debts. You could start over, perhaps in a property that's easier to manage. Sell it. The idea genuinely shocked him. But it's our family home, where Dad and you. It's a physical place, Jason. I cut in gently. One you were eager to tear apart and change just a few months ago. The memories aren't in the walls. He stood up suddenly and paced the small patio. You don't understand. Selling would mean admitting total failure. Everyone would find out. There it was, not emotional attachment to the family home, but worry about what people would think of a sale under financial pressure, appearance over what truly mattered. People already know, I said calmly. Construction stopped months ago. Contractors have filed to be paid. The financial community talks about these things. He stopped walking, shoulders slumping. I really messed everything up, didn't I? The vulnerability in his voice took me by surprise. For the first time since Robert's death, I saw my son behind his defenses, confused and finally facing the consequences of years of prioritizing appearances. Not everything, I said softly. But you've created a serious problem that will require equally serious changes to solve. He sat back down, looking suddenly drained. So what exactly are you offering? A structured path forward, I said. I'll create a fund that pays your most urgent debts and prevents bankruptcy. With professionals, we'll either finish the renovations and prepare the penthouse for sale or set it up directly for sale, whichever makes more sense after an evaluation. And in return you accept financial oversight for a defined period. You work with a counselor on what really brought you to this point and, I hesitated, then continued firmly. You make amends for how you treated me after your father died. His eyes met mine. Make amends. What exactly does that mean? It means acknowledging the harm you did. It means understanding that relationships have consequences just like financial decisions. I leaned in a little. I'm not offering help just as a business transaction. I'm offering it as a mother who believes her son can be better than his recent behavior suggests. Something in my words seemed to break the barrier he had kept. He looked away, blinking quickly. What I said that day, calling you useless. I didn't mean it, he said softly. I was angry and took it out on you. Maybe, I said. But those words didn't come from nowhere. They reflected an attitude toward me, toward older women in general, that you've had for a while. He didn't deny it, which was a small step forward. I need time to think about all this, he said finally. Take the time you need, I said. But remember that your creditors' deadlines won't adjust to your thinking time. Spring came to Playa del Carmen, painting the garden against the blue backdrop of the Caribbean with bursts of color. 9 months had passed since Robert's death. 6 since I discovered what was in the garage, and 4 since Jason's financial crisis forced us to talk. After 3 days of silence, Jason called with a response that surprised me. I'll do whatever it takes. The path from that acceptance wasn't easy. The restructuring required weeks of intense work with accountants and lawyers, revealing the full extent of Jason's financial entanglements, some much worse than he had initially said. Difficult decisions were made about the penthouse. Essential renovations were completed, and then it was decided to sell in order to cover the most urgent debts. Harder than the practical matters was the personal work Jason agreed to do. The weekly therapy sessions he first approached with skepticism gradually became a source of real understanding. Our relationship entered new territory, one neither of us handled perfectly, but with growing honesty on both sides. I was pruning roses in the garden when a familiar car pulled up. Jason got out carrying a small package, his appearance visibly different from both his former immaculate executive self and the desperate man facing ruin. His clothes were still good quality but less showy, his demeanor more relaxed. He had even grown a short beard that softened the angles of his face, making him look a lot like Robert when he was younger. "The garden looks amazing," he said, greeting me with a sincere kiss on the cheek. "You've really transformed this place." "Just working with what your father started," I said, setting my tools aside. We sat for what had become our routine monthly visit. A calm had replaced the earlier tension. "The sale of the penthouse is next week," he told me. "The final inspection went well. We're going to get about 40% more than we would have if we dumped it in an emergency sale." "That's excellent news," I said. "It'll give the fund more options for your next steps." "About those next steps," Jason set his cup down carefully. "I wanted to talk to you about something. I've been offered a position at a community development organization, focusing on affordable housing projects." My eyebrows rose. I couldn't hide my surprise. Jason's career had always been in luxury commercial real estate, with frequent disdain for affordable housing. "Obviously the salary is much lower than my previous roles," he continued. "But the fund you created covers my basic expenses and—" He hesitated, searching for the words. "It feels like important work, using what I know about development for something beyond just making money." "Sounds like a major change," I said. "What motivated you?" Jason looked out at the sea before answering. "Remember that failed project? The luxury condos? The site was sold to a nonprofit housing group. They're building mixed income, well-designed, environmentally friendly housing there now. I've been helping them informally for a few months and—" He shrugged, a mix of embarrassment and pride. "I'm good at the technical aspects of development without the pressure to maximize every cent." I studied my son's face, noting the genuine excitement as he described the project. "It seems you've found something that interests you beyond just your business skills." "Dad would probably call it ironic," Jason admitted with an honest smile, "that after years of chasing luxury markets, I'd end up in affordable housing." "I think he'd be pleased," I corrected gently. "He always admired skill, used for worthy goals." Jason nodded. Then he picked up the package he'd brought. "Speaking of Dad, that's partly why I brought this. We found some things while clearing out the penthouse that I thought you should have." Inside the package was a small wooden box I recognized instantly, Robert's collection of cufflinks and tie bars, things Jason had kept for himself at first. "I kept them thinking they represented a connection to Dad," Jason explained as I opened the box. "But I realized recently they're just things. The real connection to him isn't in possessions." Beneath the cufflinks was something else. A velvet pouch with my original wedding ring, the one I thought had been lost during the chaos at the penthouse. "I found it in Dad's office safe," Jason said as I took out the gold ring. He handed me a small envelope with my name in Robert's handwriting. Inside was a card for our 44th anniversary. The first ring was a promise of the life we would build. This one celebrates the life we created. "All my love, forever." Tucked into the card was a receipt from a jeweler dated just a few weeks before Robert's final hospitalization. For an eternity ring, a gift he didn't live to give me. "He was planning ahead even then," I said softly, tears blurring my eyes. "Always thinking of future moments." "The order was still at the jeweler's," Jason said. "I picked it up for you." He pulled a small box from his pocket and handed it to me. Inside was a delicate sapphire and diamond ring. Simple, elegant, exactly my style. The stones caught the spring light, sending prisms dancing across the patio table. "Oh, Robert," I whispered, slipping the ring onto my finger beside my original wedding band. They looked perfect together, the plain gold of the beginning and the jeweled circle of a life already lived. Jason watched in silence, leaving me this moment of connection with his father. When I finally looked at him, I saw something on his face I hadn't seen in years. A softness, a respect without impatience. As he prepared to leave, he paused at the garden gate. "So what happened to those cars, the ones in the garage?" he asked. I smiled, remembering my recent conversation with Charles. "I'm going to keep the Aston Martin. I sometimes drive it along the coast. Robert would have loved that. The others will be sold, and the money will be split between a foundation that supports financial education and a fund for your future children. If you have future children." "Future children," Jason repeated thoughtfully. "That's optimistic." "Your father was always an optimist at heart," I said. Beneath his practical plans was a belief that people can grow, can become better versions of themselves if given the right opportunity. That night I took the Aston Martin out on the coastal road. The powerful engine hummed as I took curves Robert never saw me take. The sunset turned the sea into liquid gold, while my hands, adorned with the simple band of the beginning and the jeweled circle of the conclusion, gripped the wheel with growing confidence. "You were right," I said aloud to Robert's memory, my voice carried by the wind, about so many things. The garage I once thought useless, which had symbolized my son's contempt for my worth, didn't just change my life. It also reshaped our relationship. The inheritance that had seemed so cruelly unfair turned out to be Robert's final gift of wisdom and love for both of us. As I returned home, my home, I felt that one cycle had closed and a new one had begun. Whatever the future might bring, I would face it guided by the security of Robert's plans, the lessons this difficult year had taught me, and the wisdom I gained from knowing my worth. The garage key, which once opened only a physical door, had finally opened something far more valuable. A new way of understanding love, legacy, and the courage to begin again, no matter the age or the circumstances. Now, if you like this story, click the next video appearing on the screen, because in it there's a tale of betrayal and unexpected twists like you've never seen before.